The check arrived at the table like a declaration of war. $8,000. I read the numbers 1, 2, 3 times, hoping that one of them would disappear by magic. But no. There they were, printed in black ink on white paper, as real as the silence that suddenly fell over the entire table. I was sitting at the head, hands in my lap, feeling the air in the restaurant turn heavier, denser, as if someone had slammed all the windows shut. Around me were 20 people, 20, and not a single one of them was mine. They all belonged to the family of Tiffany, my daughter-in-law. Everyone had eaten, drunk, laughed, ordered extra sides, desserts, bottles of wine that I did not even know existed. And now they were all quiet, looking at me. I felt their eyes like needles pricking my skin. I looked at my son, Lucas, searching his face for some sign that he was going to handle this, that he was going to speak up, that he was going to say something. But Lucas did not look at me. He had his eyes fixed on his phone, as if none of this were happening. I squeezed my fingers against the fabric of my skirt, trying to keep calm. My heart was beating so loud I thought everyone could hear it. I wanted to say something, but I did not know what. I wanted to stand up, but my legs would not respond. And then Lucas looked up. He looked me straight in the eyes, unblinking, without any expression on his face. And he said, with a voice so cold it did not seem like his, "Mom, you get this. We will be waiting in the car." Just like that, without hesitating, without shame, as if he were asking me to pick up a loaf of bread. I felt something break inside me, something that had been holding me up for years, for my whole life. Tiffany was already standing, adjusting her purse on her shoulder, smiling barely, with that smile I had learned to hate in silence. The others began to get up too, one by one, saying goodbye to each other, laughing as if nothing had happened, as if I were not there, as if I were invisible, as if I were just a wallet with legs. I remained seated, with the check in front of me, feeling the world move in slow motion. Lucas was already walking toward the exit, without looking back. Tiffany followed him, talking to her mother, her brothers, her aunts. Nobody said thank you to me. Nobody asked me if I was okay. Nobody asked me if I could pay for that. Because to them, I could. To them, I was Eleanor Vance, the woman who always said yes, the woman who always found a way, the woman who never complained. But in that moment, sitting alone at that enormous table, surrounded by empty plates and dirty wine glasses, I knew something. I knew that this had not started today. This came from much earlier. This had been growing in silence, like a poisonous weed that I had watered without realizing it. And now it was in front of me, enormous, inevitable, asking me to pay for it. I took my purse with trembling hands. I opened it slowly, feeling all the waiters watching me from afar, waiting. The restaurant manager was already approaching, with that face of fake concern that people have when they know someone is not going to be able to pay. I took out my wallet, opened it, and saw my cards, my bills, everything I had saved for months, for years, everything I had gathered with so much effort. And then I thought about something. I thought about how many times I had done this before, how many times I had paid without anyone asking me, how many times I had given without anyone thanking me, how many times I had stayed silent so as not to cause problems. And I asked myself, until when? Until when was I going to keep doing this? Until when was I going to let them treat me as if I did not matter? I closed the wallet. I closed the purse. I got up from the chair, feeling my legs shaking but holding me up. The manager looked at me with surprise. I looked at him, and then I looked toward the door, where my son had already disappeared. And then I walked. I walked toward the exit, with my head held high, with my heart shattered, but with something new inside me. Something I had not felt in a long time. Something that looked like dignity. Behind me, I heard the manager calling me. I heard voices rising. I heard hurried footsteps, but I did not stop. I kept walking, because in that moment I knew that if I stopped, if I went back, if I paid that bill, I was going to die in there. Not physically, but in all the ways that matter. I was going to die as a woman, as a mother, as a human being. And I was not willing to die like that. Not yet. Not for them. It had all started 3 days earlier, on a Tuesday afternoon, When the phone rang while I was watering the plants on the balcony, it was Lucas. I felt that little spark of joy I always felt when I saw his name on the screen. That foolish mother's hope thinking her son is calling because he misses her, because he wants to know how she is, because he cares. I answered quickly, wiping my hands on my apron. "Hello, son," I said, trying not to sound too anxious, too needy. He responded with a casual tone, almost disinterested. "Hey, Mom. Calling real quick. Tiffany and I want to invite you to dinner this Friday. Nothing formal, just something chill with the family." I felt my heart fill with hope. I had not seen them in weeks. It had been weeks since I waited for some sign that I still existed for them, that I still mattered. "Of course, son, of course," I responded immediately, without thinking. "What time? Where? Do you need me to bring anything?" Lucas paused, as if he were doing something else while talking to me. "No, Mom, don't bring anything. Just come. I'll text you the address later. It's a new restaurant Tiffany likes." I nodded, even though he could not see me. "Perfect, son. I will be there." "Thanks for inviting me." There was another awkward silence, and then he said, "Okay, Mom, gotta run. See you Friday." And he hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there, with the phone in my hand, feeling that strange mix of happiness and emptiness I had learned to carry in recent months. Happiness because my son had called me, because he had invited me, because I was going to see him. Emptiness because the call had been so short, so cold, so mechanical. But I told myself it did not matter, that the important thing was that he had thought of me, that he still wanted me in his life. I went back to my plants, but I could no longer concentrate. My mind was thinking about what to wear, if I should bring a gift for Tiffany, even though Lucas had said no, if I should offer to pay the tip or wait for them to handle it. I knew Lucas was not going through a good financial moment. He never told me directly, but I noticed. I noticed how he avoided talking about his job, how Tiffany always mentioned things they needed, things they wanted to buy but could not. I had helped several times. I had given them money for rent when they were behind. I had bought things for their house. I had paid for car repairs. They never asked me directly, but they always dropped comments. They always made me feel that if I did not help, they were going to suffer. And I could not stand the idea of my son suffering. So I helped. I always helped. That night I did not sleep well. I tossed and turned in bed, thinking about the dinner, imagining how it would be. I imagined myself laughing with Lucas, chatting with Tiffany, feeling that I was still part of something, that I still had a family. Because that was my reality now. I lived alone in this small apartment since my husband had died 5 years ago. Lucas was all I had left. He was my only family, my only connection to the world. My friends told me I needed to get a life, that I needed to go out more, meet people, do things for me. But I did not know how. I had spent my whole life being a wife, being a mother, being the person who took care of others. I did not know who Eleanor Vance was without that. I did not know what to do with myself when there was no one who needed me. The days passed slowly, as if time knew something important was going to happen. On Wednesday, I went to the bank to take out money, just in case. I withdrew $500 in cash and put them in my wallet, in the secret compartment where I always kept the important stuff. On Thursday, I went to the salon and got my hair done. I wanted to look good. I wanted Lucas to feel proud of me. I wanted Tiffany to have nothing bad to say. Because Tiffany always found something. There was always a comment about my clothes, about my hair, about how I spoke or how I acted. It was never anything direct. It was always disguised as concern, as advice, as help. But I felt it. I felt how she looked at me, how she measured me, how she judged me. And I, like a fool, always tried to please her, always tried to be better, to be enough for her. Friday arrived. I woke up early, nerves on edge. I showered, put on my best dress, the one I had bought 2 years ago for a wedding and almost never used because I never had anywhere to go. I applied makeup carefully, put on perfume, put on the earrings my husband had given me on our last anniversary. I looked in the mirror and saw a 67-year-old woman trying to look important, trying to look loved. I saw a woman who was hungry for affection, for attention, for someone to tell her she still mattered. And it made me sad. It made me sad to see myself like that, so needy, so lonely. But I forced myself to smile. I forced myself to think positively. Today was going to be a good day. Today I was going to be with my son. That was the only thing that mattered. I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes before the agreed time. I did not want to be late. I did not want Lucas to get annoyed. The place was elegant, much more elegant than I expected. There were white tablecloths, crystal glasses, waiters with impeccable uniforms. I felt out of place immediately, but I took a deep breath and went in. I gave my name to the hostess, and she led me toward a large table at the back of the room. An enormous table, and that was when I saw it. That was when my stomach tightened and I knew something was wrong. Because that table was not for 3 people. That table was for 20. Lucas was standing next to the table, talking to someone on the phone. When he saw me arrive, he cut the call quickly and greeted me with a peck on the cheek. His greeting was cold, automatic, like someone fulfilling an obligation. "Hey, Mom." "You're early," he said, and I did not know if that was good or bad. "I wanted to make sure I wasn't late, son," I replied, trying to sound cheerful, although inside I already felt a knot in my stomach. I looked at the giant table and then I looked at him. "Is it going to be just us 3? I asked, signaling with my gaze the 20 empty seats. Lucas avoided my eyes. Yeah, well, Tiffany invited some family members. You know how she is. She likes the family to be united." I nodded, although inside something told me this was not right, that something in all this did not make sense. "Some family members," I repeated, trying to maintain calm. "How many are coming?" Lucas shrugged, as if it were not important. "I don't know, Mom. 10, 15. Not many. It's just a chill dinner, don't worry." But I was already worried, because this was not what he had told me. He had told me it would be something intimate, something family style, just us 3. And now, it turned out there were going to be 15 people I did not know. People from Tiffany's family, people who did not even know who I was. I felt deceived, but I said nothing. I did not want to ruin the night. I did not want Lucas to think I was bitter, a difficult old woman who could not adapt to anything. So I smiled and said, "Okay, son, no problem." Tiffany arrived 10 minutes later, accompanied by her mother, 2 sisters, and 3 cousins. They all entered laughing, talking loudly, occupying the space as if the entire restaurant were theirs. Tiffany greeted me with a kiss in the air, without touching me, and said, "Hi, Eleanor. So good you could come." Could come. As if I had to make an enormous effort to be there, as if I were doing them a favor. I swallowed hard and replied, "Thanks for inviting me, Tiffany." She was no longer looking at me. She was already introducing me to her family, as if I were one more piece of furniture. "This is Eleanor, Lucas's mom," she was saying, and everyone nodded with fake courtesy, with those smiles that do not reach the eyes. Nobody asked me questions. Nobody showed interest. They just said hello and continued with their conversations. I sat at a corner of the table, as far as possible from the center. Lucas sat at the other end, next to Tiffany, surrounded by her whole family. I stayed there, alone, without anyone talking to me, watching as everyone laughed, toasted, ordered drinks. The waiter passed several times, offering wines, cocktails, appetizers. I ordered only a glass of water. I did not want to spend. I did not want to draw attention. But everyone else ordered without limit. I saw Tiffany's mother order a bottle of wine that cost $200. I saw the cousins ordering appetizers, special dishes, things from the menu that did not even have a visible price. And every time someone ordered something, I felt my stomach tighten a little more, because I knew how these things worked. I knew that when the check came, someone was going to have to pay it, and I was afraid of being that someone. I tried to talk to Lucas from my seat. I called him a couple of times, but he did not hear me, or pretended not to hear me. He was too busy laughing with Tiffany's brothers, too busy pouring wine, too busy being the perfect son-in-law. I felt invisible. I felt that I did not matter there, that I was just an ornament, one more number at the table. And then the food arrived. Enormous plates, steaks, seafood, sides, sauces. Everything looked beautiful. Everything smelled delicious, but I could barely eat. I had a knot in my throat that did not let me swallow. Around me, everyone ate and laughed, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. As if spending hundreds of dollars in a single night were something every day, something unimportant. At one moment, Tiffany's sister, a woman of about 40 who did not stop talking, looked at me from the other side of the table and said, "Eleanor, you must be proud of Lucas. Tiffany tells us he is a very attentive son, very generous." I did not know what to answer. Generous? Lucas? My son who had not visited me in months unless it was to ask for something, who called me only when he needed money, who had invited me to this dinner without even warning me it was going to be a massive event. But I smiled and said, "Yes, I am very proud of him." Because that was what was supposed to be said. That was what a good mother said, even though inside she felt something was deeply wrong. Then Tiffany's mother, a lady of about 60 with expensive jewelry and an air of superiority, leaned toward me and asked, "Eleanor, do you still work or are you already retired?" The question sounded innocent, but I felt the poison behind it. "I am retired," I replied calmly. "I worked 30 years as a secretary in an accounting firm." She nodded, but her expression did not change. "Oh, that's nice. Surely you have a good pension then." I felt my face getting hot. "It is modest, but it is enough for me to live," I said, trying to sound dignified. She smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "That's good, because raising children isn't easy, and now that they are grown, at least one can enjoy a little of what one saved, right?" I nodded, but inside something broke. Because I knew exactly what she was doing. She was measuring me. She was calculating how much money I had, how much she could get out of me. Tiffany joined the conversation. "Yes, Eleanor is very hardworking. Lucas always tells us how she raised him alone after his dad died." I looked at my son, hoping he would say something, that he would defend me, that he would set boundaries, but Lucas only nodded and kept eating. Tiffany continued. "Actually, she recently helped us with the rent. It is lucky to have such an understanding mother-in-law." I felt all the gazes of the table landing on me. I felt how they weighed me, how they judged me, how they labeled me. Eleanor, the mother-in-law with money. Eleanor, the payer. Eleanor, the piggy bank. I wanted to scream. I wanted to get up and run out, but I didn't. I stayed there, quiet, smiling, pretending everything was fine. Tiffany's brother, a young man of about 30, ordered another bottle of wine. Then he ordered desserts for the whole table. Then he ordered coffee, liqueurs, digestives. And every time he ordered something, he looked toward where I was, as if he were waiting for my reaction, as if he were testing me. I kept my gaze low, hands on my lap, heart beating so hard I felt it was going to burst. And then, in the middle of all that chaos, Lucas got up and went to the restroom. Tiffany followed him a few minutes later. I was left alone at the table with all those strange people, feeling the time become eternal, like every second was torture. Nobody spoke to me. Nobody included me. I was just the one who was there, occupying space, waiting for something to happen. When Lucas and Tiffany returned, he had a weird expression on his face. He wouldn't look me in the eye. Tiffany, on the other hand, was smiling. A triumphant, victorious smile. And I knew, in that moment, that something bad was about to happen. Something much worse than everything that had already happened that night. Because I knew that look. I had seen that look before. It was the look of someone who has already made a decision, someone who has already planned everything, someone who is just waiting for the perfect moment to execute their plan. And I was the target. When everyone finished eating, when there was nothing left on the plates, when the glasses were empty and the desserts consumed, the atmosphere changed. There was a strange silence, as if everyone were waiting for something. I looked around trying to understand what was happening, but nobody returned my gaze. Everyone avoided my eyes. Everyone seemed to be concentrated on their phones, on their private conversations, on anything but me, anything but the reality of what was coming. The waiter approached the table with a black folder in his hand. The check. My heart began to beat faster. I looked toward Lucas, hoping he would do something, that he would ask for the check, that he would take control of the situation. But Lucas remained on his phone, typing messages, completely ignoring what was happening. The waiter left the folder in the center of the table and withdrew discreetly. Nobody touched it. Nobody opened it. Everyone simply stayed there, like statues, waiting. Tiffany's mother was the first to speak. "What a wonderful dinner," she said with a wide smile. "It's been a long time since we ate so well as a family." The others nodded, murmuring words of agreement. Yeah, it was incredible, said one of the cousins. We should do this more often, added one of the sisters. I listened to all this feeling my stomach twisting, because nobody was mentioning the check. Nobody was offering to pay. Nobody was even acknowledging there was a debt pending on the table, and I knew why. I knew exactly why. Tiffany got up from her chair and walked toward the restroom, taking two of her sisters with her. They passed by me without saying a word, without even looking at me. I stayed there, feeling the weight of the situation falling on my shoulders. Lucas finally put away his phone and looked at me, but it was not the look of a worried son. It was not the look of someone trying to solve a problem. It was a cold, calculating, distant look. A look I did not recognize. A look that scared me. "Mom," he said in a low voice, barely audible among the noise of the restaurant. I leaned forward to hear him better. "Yes, son," I replied with a trembling voice, feeling that something terrible was about to happen. He did not answer immediately. He stayed looking at me, as if he were evaluating something, as if he were deciding what to say or how to say it. And then he said it. He said it with a naturalness that froze my blood. "The bill is $8,000. I felt the world stop. $8,000. 8,000. I repeated the number in my mind several times, trying to process it, trying to understand how it was possible for a dinner to cost so much. $8,000, I repeated aloud, almost breathless. Lucas nodded, showing no emotion. "Yeah, it's an expensive restaurant, but it was worth it, don't you think?" Everyone enjoyed it a lot. I could not believe what I was hearing. I could not believe my son was talking about this as if it were something normal, as if $8,000 were pocket change. "Lucas, I don't have $8,000, I said, feeling my voice breaking. "I didn't know this was going to cost so much. You told me it was a simple dinner, something quiet with family." He shrugged.